Hello, I'm your host, Leonard Duncan. Welcome to a new episode of ATV-TALK and Motorsports Podcast. Please join us every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We bring you interviews with industry professionals, live events, live news about the motorsports industry in every episode. Enjoy the show. Whether we are out riding with our friends and family or racing in extreme environments, we all need good tires. That's why I recommend GBC Power Sports Tires, a division of Greenball Corp. Their products, which include XC Master, Mini Master, and Groundbuster 3, are what leading professionals in the ATV-UTV industry are using. You can get your tires at greenballtires.com or find them on Instagram as GBC Tires for further inquiries. Are you looking for the best suspension technology for your sport ATV? Look no further than Elka Suspension, the industry leader in sport ATV suspension technology. With championship wins in prestigious events such as the Dakar Rally, Score, Best in the Desert, ATV MX, Cross Country, and Works, Elka Suspension has established itself as the go-to choice for athletes and enthusiasts alike. But they don't just stop at ATVs. They're constantly expanding into new markets, including UTVs, trucks, SUVs, pit bikes, snowmobiles, and more. Their commitment to innovation and quality means they're always looking to improve and adapt so you can enjoy a smooth ride wherever you go. Want to learn more about what Elka Suspension can do for you? Visit their website at elkasuspension.com or give them a call at 450-655-4855. They will always be happy to answer your questions and help you find the perfect suspension solution for your needs. Max Lindquist, how you doing, brother? Man, it's been a bit since we've spoken.
Yeah, Lenny, it's been a minute, but it'll be good to be back on here, and it's good to see your face and talk some ATV racing. Can never turn that down.
Well, I appreciate that. Great to see the change. We talked a lot last year up until around closer to the end, and then some things started going awry. Your life was changing. You've made some choices and some changes. Tell us about a little bit about that.
Yeah, made a lot of personal changes, personal choices, and just at the end of the day, went back to where I started and basically started over. Just kind of scratched what I was doing and found out why went back to what I knew worked, what I enjoyed, and just made it fun again. And a lot of that was just taking a good break. I took a little time away from the four-wheeler in the off season and stepped away. I obviously came out and did a little off season racing for fun, but after that, I really took a good break and just mentally tried to clear my head and not forget about what happened, but just take what I learned away from it and kind of forget about the rest of it and just look forward to rebuilding. And I'd say we've pretty much done so. It was a little bit of a slow start to this year, but I feel like I'm getting back to where I was 2-3 seasons ago and getting back on a program that I'm familiar with and comfortable with. And that's mostly just going back to my Wienen Motorsports program that was so successful early on in my pro career and pro-am days, and then bringing on Impact Solutions with my Fox shocks. That's been a big help as well. So between those two guys, Alaska Motorsports and PEP Performance Tuning, going back to that whole setup that I had with FMF, Chad, Wienen, and just that whole deal right there, that really was uplifting and got me back to where I was a few years ago setup wise. And then I just had to get myself work on myself and really just focus on me. And I started working full time now, and that's been a good thing as well, to keep the racing fun and exciting. kind of rejuvenated myself in a way to where like I really enjoy riding and just going to the track to get better. And I was missing that last year. I got a little burnt out, and that was the first time I ever had anything like that in my career that I've had to overcome. And I can say I definitely don't need to do it again, but it was a big learning curve for me. And walking away from it, looking back, like definitely not what I wanted to do, but I'm glad it happened, and I'm glad that I have, you know, had to work my way back to where I am, because I feel like it's just going to make me better in the long run.
When you changed the back to the Wienen stuff, I know Chad's program evolves constantly. Did you just fit right into the evolution of his program? I know he's injured right now, but the guy never rests. So
Yeah, like at the end of last year, I mean, me and Chad have been close for years. We're basically family at this point, and would be how I look at them. Like I'm with their family about every week, and at the end of the year, just kind of sat down together and discussed like what my struggles were and what I was looking for, and you know what he needed to what he needed me to do and what I needed to do to like make this thing all work and get back to where we were. And they were super happy to help and have been a huge help to me, and like I was super happy to go back to that program. And yeah, like he's continued evolving things, and he just basically fit me right back into where he was at. And I'm blessed for that opportunity. He did not have to help me, and um, he's been a good friend to me and a good mentor, and he's continuing to do that for me, and it's obviously paying off for myself and him. Like to see what his program can do for me, and then to see what I can do with his program has been quite fun this year.
that's excellent. Yeah, because you put it on the box, what, 4 times, 3 times?
3 times now. Yeah,
You got to
that's
put on are you stuck in the third spot like you were stuck back in that other spot before, or are we going to progress?
no. Oh no, we're just finding our footing. So we're just getting into stride. I feel like, to be totally honest, like I was a little unsure of myself coming into the season. Like the first, it really took me till like round 4, round 5 to like really gain my confidence back, understand what the machine was doing underneath me, and like know what to expect. Like I took a lot, like I've done a lot less riding this year in a whole as I have ever. Like this is the least amount of riding I've ever done as a professional. And there's, obviously some negatives that come with that, but there's also been a lot of positives. And like I've just been focusing on the positives of like I'm really refreshed when I ride. I've been enjoying it, having good fun days, and when I do ride, I've been getting a lot out of it. But at the same time, like it's taken me a little longer to maybe than I would have necessarily expected to like get back into form and to shape to where like I feel comfortable going the speed we need to go. And a lot of that too is the competition level is really high right now. Everyone else is, I had a year last year where I kind of went backwards and everyone else continued going forwards. And now I had to play that game of catch up, and I feel like we're back to the point of where we're really close to being caught up to that front group of guys again. I just need to believe in it and just keep doing what I'm doing. And I think over time here we're going to continue to just work our way forward and progress.
I want to shift gears a little bit here. Do you think that every time the group steps it up, then Joel steps it up again?
Are you ready for your next vacation adventure? Step into the heart of Arizona's natural splendor with a tour of Antelope Slot Canyon. Ideal for photography enthusiasts and nature lovers, our tours offer a unique journey through a landscape sculpted over millions of years. Let our expert guides lead you through the swirling sandstone. We're going to have to do it. Let our expert guides lead you through the swirling sandstone formations where every turn reveals stunning light displays, geological marvels. Secure your spot now at Antelope Slot Canyon Tours and prepare to be awed by the canyon's mystical beauty. For details, please visit us at antelopeslotcanyon.com.
I think Joel's just always pushing himself to another level. Like, I don't think he ever settles. Like, I would like to, yes, the answer to that would have to be yes, because I feel like he's just, as we're slowly making our group better and us, the guys are getting closer, like I feel like we're closing the gap, because at some point, like, you can only go so fast and do so much, but at the same time, I would have thought we'd already been there. So, like, obviously Joel is maturing and learning, and he's figuring out how to be consistent and smooth and all those other things that he may have struggled with years ago that now he are becoming his strengths. And at the end of the day, yeah, it's tough to see the guy consistently beat you and walk away, but it's also humbling when you're getting closer to him, and like it's also good to have that goal of like trying to get there at some point. Like, he's good for the sport as well. Like, he's keeping all us young guys pushing.
That's true. That's true. Um, so qualifying for you, I'm going to get back on track to our building conversation. So I watched the times from qualifying, and I have all year. And one of the things I've noticed is Max Lindquist doesn't like to qualify.
I hate qualifying. Let's just get that on record. It's my least favorite thing to do.
Is that why your race pace is so much faster than your qualifying pace?
Oh yeah. Like, it's not that I don't like the qualifying format or there's anything wrong with it. For me, it's I even struggle with this in practice, and it's been something like since I've been a pro that I have a hard time with, and it's putting together one really fast lap. I'm a rider that I know where my limits are and I know how far I can push, and like I have to feel that comfort level before I'm willing to go that fast, or I'm gonna settle where I'm at. And like, in qualifying, I almost treat it more like practice at this point. Like, I would love to see a P2, a P3, a P1. Like, that's obviously always the goal. But for me, like, I just know, like, with a little more limited amount of seat time and like all these changes I've had, like, I'm going to these races and using qualifying to just try and get myself like in tune with the machine and feel good. Like, if I can get through the second qualifier and go, yep, like, we made all the correct changes we need to make, the machine feels good, I don't worry where I qualify, because I know when the race comes around, like, the pace is I'll pick it up. And so far it's worked for me, and I've kind of always been that way. But it's definitely like, it's always a little like, it's, always hard on the confidence too. Like, you have to just mentally know, like, I'm not always willing to push it as hard as these guys are in qualifying. Like, I'll be flat out honest. Like, Joel, Bryce, and Brandon, like, they're animals in qualifying. Like, hanging off the side of the machine and just like trying to get everything out of that track they can. And for me, I just I don't feel comfortable there. I just settle into where I feel comfortable, click my laps off, and learn the track. And I just play. I just take what I can get and play the hand I'm dealt.
That's a good way to be. I mean, you got to be there for the race. If something happens and you're not, then what was the point, right?
Yeah, and like, obviously it's something I need to work on. Like, it's still not a strength of mine. Like, we can't be qualifying sixth, seventh. Like, that's not really ideal. But for me, it's like, if I can be P4 or better, it gets you to where you have good gate position at that point still. And from there, like, all you have to do is execute a good start and race. Where you start qualifying any lower than that third, fourth spot, and like, you're giving up valuable gate position. So at that point in time, like, it's definitely something that I'm still working on and trying to figure out. I'm still not there. Like, I just have a hard time getting myself mentally in that space to go that fast. And I'm aware of it. It's something we're gonna continue to strive for, but it's also something that I guess I'm just not too worried about it at the moment. I've just been really trying to focus on those motos and let the rest of it come to me.
That's good. Just keep the focus and keep the hammer down. So you're fourth in points. You're not that far behind Brandon Hogue. Do you see it a possibility in 3 rounds that you can catch him and pass him?
I think the possibility is definitely there. The goals are obviously set there. But we are just going to keep doing what we've been doing and stay consistent and see what happens. Like, I've been really happy with the program the last 2 weekends. Like, we've been making good steps forward, and I've been picking up the pace. So at this point in time, I've never had this good of a season. I've always like either hurt myself or had like that bad round. Like, I've always had a season where you have like a race that just like you can't seem to do anything right. You hit the ground, you crash, you break, and like knock on a lot of wood so far this year. Like, I've just consistently been in that top 5, and coming into the season, that was the goal, was like be in the top 5, be there, and like, just see what happens. And so far it's been working really good. So would love to be third. Definitely a possibility. I know I can do it. Just gonna keep focusing on finishing every moto in the top 5 and just see where we're at.
Well, that's a good thing to do. Do you think the fact that not having Jeffrey Rastrelli and Nick Janusa there, that hurts your guys' group for growth?
Growth wise, I mean, you still have guys out in front of you pushing. When you have Joel Hetrick on the track, I don't feel like you need anyone else to show you that you need to pick up pace. But for a racecraft and just for even a spectator standpoint, like, I would love to see the guys back on the gate. I think it's good for our sport. I think it's good for our racing. Like, I think it's good for us. I mean, it's good to have to mix it up and battle with these guys. Like, it's 2 more veteran guys that are going to show you lines and, teach you things that maybe you're missing. And I guess time will tell, like, if it hurts us or not. I think it'll be good to have those guys back. It sounds like here at the end of the season, and see where they fit back into the group after having a little time off. And yeah, we'll just have to see how it pans out.
Well, it definitely hurts. It definitely hurts their growth by missing so many rounds in a sport, in a series that you guys are striving for every inch, every round, and some of you are gaining ground each and every round. So they're going to be a little behind the 8 ball, I think.
Yeah, like, I definitely agree. Like, you're obviously not going forward at that point, but also knowing like the veterans they are and being there myself of being injured, like, if you stay active and stay doing what you need to do, like, I look at Wesley Wolf right now. Like, he had himself a good weekend the last 2 rounds after coming back from injury. And stamina is always hard, but if you're mentally prepared, like, you can get back there faster than you'd think. But it's definitely, a disadvantage to have to overcome those injuries and do those things when other guys are continuing to grow. So, but I also think it's going to make for really interesting racing these last couple rounds when these guys come back. And we've had a group of guys now that have started to figure out where they're at, and then you throw guys in between you, and like, you're gonna have to make passes on these guys and figure out how to get around them, because it's not like they're just gonna move over for you.
Right. That's totally true. You guys are going to Pleasure Valley. I'm going to go backwards for a second. Wesley Wolf, you brought him up. The injury, he was 5th, 6th, 7th place guy. He comes back from the injury and he just like punched the class in the mouth and said, "Get out of my way. I'm coming to the front." Do you think that's more attitude based versus just overall change in program?
I mean, he's been on the same program for a little while now. I think it's just him getting healthy and being in a good mental space and having a solid program around him that he's confident in. I think like he's had a lot of big injuries over the last couple of years, and I don't think you've seen him healthy very much. And I think he's getting to that point where he's obviously not fully recovered, but he might be getting closer and closer to that point, and you're starting to see what his full capabilities are.
Right. I hear, I have never been able to speak to Wesley, so I don't know him personally. But what I hear is he is one of the salt of the earth, down to the earth guys that just works hard and pounds it out.
Yeah, he's a jack of all trades, so he's one of the guys that's putting in some of the most work in the class, and he knows that, and he walks with his head high because of that. And I think he just like I think for him it's fun to come out, and he likes being the underdog. Like, I think he likes that, having that chip on his shoulder, and he rides with aggression and just goes out there to do the best he can every time, and that's all you can do. So hats off to him for coming back out of injury and making a name for himself.
That's true. That's true. So we talked about the points a little bit, and they draw the Team USA guys from the top three in points every year. You being a guy that was battling in that 4 or 5 position when that draw came out, does Max Lindquist have any dreams or his eyes set on possibly being on Team USA one day?
Oh, I mean, I think you're crazy if you don't. I mean, like for me, I would love to go. It's always been a dream and always will be. And, obviously wasn't quite there this year, but it's something that we're just going to keep striving for. And like, I want to earn my way to do it. So, hats off to those guys that are there this year. I know they're going to do a great job, and I think it's the right 3 guys that are going, and I'm just going to keep pushing. So when the conversation comes next year and the year following, then you put yourself in that position to be there. So definitely, if that opportunity comes my way, I feel like it's one of those once in a lifetime opportunities you got to make happen.
So if you were chosen for that Team USA, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, big time. So if you got chosen, would you pick your mentor, Chad Wienen, to go with you as your mechanic, or your dad?
Let's just say there would definitely be some conversations there. As
You got to give me an
definitely
answer, bro. You got to give me an answer.
well, like, you know, I love Pops, and Pops does a lot for me. And depending where Chad's at, if he's racing or like depending on the situation, like if Chad wasn't racing and I have the opportunity to go with as close as we are and as much as he does for me, I would definitely have to see if he'd be, interested in helping me out and coming over there and doing that for me because with having him being injured this year, he's been around and able to do that for me a few races this year coming. He's not necessarily spinning the wrenches, but he's helping with the bike setup and, walking through track, like race scenarios and track stuff with me. And that's been super big for my confidence and like all that with the machine and just all around, like he just makes me better. And if I would have that opportunity for sure, I would love to see him come over there with me.
That's so cool. If Chad Wienen comes back next year for 2025, where does that put Max Lindquist? Are Chad and Max going to be under the same tent, continuing the program that you're on with him?
Oh yeah, I'm here to stay. I'm not going anywhere. So I've tried what I need to try and learned what I've needed to learn. And at the end of the day, me and Chad just we have a really good relationship where like he's a mentor to me, but yet we're best friends. And the dude just does what he can for me and always will. And I'm gonna do the same for him. So it's one of those deals where when he comes back in 2025, like I continue to still build my own chassis and take care of my own race machine. Chad's got a lot going on doing all his own mechanicking work, machines, engines, and all that. But like at the moment, Chad is currently taking care of all my race engines, like in between rounds. He's the guy that's putting the engine together, taking it apart, dissecting everything, and basically setting me up for success. And there's definitely no plans in changing that going into the future. And as for him coming back, I hope he does. I know he's still got a decision to make there, but you won't see anything changing for me or him program wise that I'm aware of.
As Chad's friend, if he sat down and asked you some advice about coming back, or racing in the future, what would be your advice to Chad?
We've actually like one-on-one sat down and talked about him coming back and stuff, and I kind of know where he's at, and we've discussed that. And I think for him, and how I look at it too is like the dude's got nothing left to prove. He's given everything to this sport, and I think he knows that, but yet he's a competitor, and he's a dude that like just has a lot of fight left in him. And I still see it. Like I'm around him right now with him starting rehab and all that, and you can just tell like the tank's not empty yet. And I think for him, it's I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think it's whatever works for his family. Like if his family's still supportive of what he's doing, I think he needs to do it, because I don't see Chad Wienen coming back and not being a title contender. So at that point in time, he's got the knowledge, the equipment, like he has the program, and he's got an amazing program. For me, like I'm telling him to put the helmet on and let's bang some bars. So I need someone to ride with too. So we're just gonna make each other better.
So you're selfish, is what you're telling me.
I tell Chad that all the time. Like, I was actually just down there this weekend with him, and he let me go out there and knock the weeds off his track and spin some laps, which I know couldn't have been easy for him, and I respect the heck out of that, because I struggle in our area to like have places to ride, and Chad has this amazing national caliber track in his backyard that hasn't been touched all year, and he let me come up there and spin some laps. And like I told him at the end of the day, like it was great for me, like to have that seat time and be able to do that. But it ain't the same without him there. Like there's something about like having that push and having that other guy there, that like you're not out there suffering by yourself. Like it's that's one thing that like we're geared very similarly. Like it's always a competition between us, but it's like to make each other better. You're never like dishing on each other. You're always building each other up. And I hope he comes back for that aspect of like, I think he's got a lot left in the tank, and I think he could run for a title. And I think like together we're just going to make each other better. Like I look forward to racing with him again. So I don't feel like it's necessarily time for him to step away yet.
I like that answer. I hope that he makes the best answer for himself and his family. And, being that he's an 8-time champion and been a beacon of light in our industry for years, I don't want him to step away, but then again, I want him to make the best choice. And if he became a team owner, a sponsor, or a guide for you, and you and somebody else, that would be also an excellent choice for the industry, I think.
Yeah, I think there's endless possibilities for that dude. Like he's so driven and has so many connections to where like I think whatever he puts his mind to, he's going to be amazing at. So I think it's more whatever Chad chooses is his next step. And like I think he's got a lot of fight left in him. I think he could come back and do something great yet. And if he doesn't, I also, think whatever his next step is going to be awesome too. So like we've had both conversations, and I think it comes down to honestly more just the family, like what's best for that situation. And to hear that come out of his mouth, like sitting there talking together, like I, like to keep some things private, but like to basically hear him say like he's got his family and his thoughts that's hard to do, like to put, what you want aside and to think about your family. Like I think he's got the right mindset for what's going on right now. And I think he'll make the best choice possible. So, and that'll be cool to see what comes out of that.
Being a dad changes everything. There's a change when you become a husband, but being a father, and being the lead for that family and the matriarch and the grounding force, there's a lot of burden on his shoulders. So none of us should take his decisions lightly. Whatever he decides to do will be thought out well with him and his wife, and his children will be in mind as well. So that's pretty cool. Let's get back on Max Lindquist. I mean, we could talk about Chad Wienen for another 8 years or more, but I want to talk about Max Lindquist. So Max, you got a full-time job. What is it that you do?
So my parents own a plumbing business back home here, and they have for 20 years now. So it's been around since I've been little, and I've always dabbled with it and helped dad a little bit, but I've never got into it. I always was busy racing and playing sports, and the times come to where like I kind of needed to step back from racing a little bit and learn what real life was about. And obviously, I would say I love racing full time. That's for sure. It makes you appreciate it. But it's also been really good. I go to work, 40 hours a week and go plumbing and just be a normal human being a little bit. So that's been good to kind of ground me and let me learn how it is to, work hard for your money and, also how to go spend it then too. So, but, no, it's been good. So I've been plumbing full time, and like there's no plans in that changing anytime in the future. I just want to keep learning about that, and that way I always have something to fall back on. But yet there's no plans in giving up racing anytime soon either. Like I'm gonna continue to balance that act.
Well, knowing your family or getting to know your family like I did there for a little while, your brothers are both ball players. How is that working out for them?
Really good so far. Yeah, my middle brother is currently going to be going into his sophomore season playing D2 college football, and like he'll be a starter this year. So you know that's impressive in itself, and hopefully that works out for him. He's got big dreams there and goals, and I he's been putting in the work for it, so I hope to see it work out for him. I know he's going to keep pushing hard to make those dreams happen. And then my younger brother is just another athlete himself, and I think he's still undecided in necessarily what his goals long term are and all that, but he whenever he does something, he's like me, and he puts his head down and like puts everything he's got into it. So it's cool to see that too. Like he's 5 years younger than me, so it's quite a good little gap there, and like getting to see him like mature and grow to where he's bigger than me now and has to rub that in and all that is quite entertaining. So,
Yeah,
but I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of good going on there, and I'm excited to sit down this off season and watch some football.
that's pretty cool because you gave up your football career to make sure you could race, correct?
I gave up just about every sport to make sure I could race. Yeah, basically I went pro my junior year, and up until then, like I played soccer, football, basketball. Like I basically played every sport I could, and when that time came around, I made that decision, and I definitely don't regret it. It's been an awesome ride, but it's also one of those things where it's cool to watch my brothers like get to continue playing and live out that dream too.
When you became a professional athlete, I mean a real professional athlete, how did that change with your relationship with any of the teachers that you had in high school that knew you were a professional?
Um, like for me, we kind of had that whole at that time it was kind of the whole COVID situation. So like I didn't necessarily actually sit down and get to see a lot of my teachers at that point in time. Like we were all out of school for mandates and all that fun stuff. Um, but it is interesting. Like when you do run into some of your teachers and people like that, they definitely don't take it lightly, and it's a nice pat on the back, and I really appreciate like what they did for me, and it's cool. Like I still have teachers and like faculty from like my hometown and my school that keep up with what I do and all that, and that's pretty special. Like means a lot to me that these people like get into that, and like at the time, a lot of my teachers thought you're crazy when you're going to these nationals at 7 through 15 years old, leaving school, and to like growing up in school, your teachers always ask you what you wanted to do, and my goal was always to be a professional. And like it's pretty cool to see those teachers 10 years later and them ask what you're doing and be like, oh, I race professional motocross, and they're like, really, like you made it? And it's like, yeah, I got there. And that's a pretty cool conversation when that happens. So it's definitely don't take it lightly.
That's kind of a neat story for hometown, that they get into it as much as you do. I know your mom's probably your number one fan.
Oh yeah, still is. That'll never change.
Right. Well, she's got you and the other two. I'm sure she's got different colored pom-poms to cheer your brothers on as well, right?
Yeah, let's just say we make the parents' travel schedule quite entertaining these days with college football, high school football, and racing. They definitely work their butts off to be there for us, and it's quite awesome.
Well, now Dad's got you to rely on a little bit when you're not racing to man the ship at home, right?
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how that goes. So I have a feeling I'll be working a little bit more when he's out watching my brothers play football, and I think that'll be good. So I'm actually excited for that.
So, beings that you were basically a team owner of yourself for a little while, and then
Yep.
you go and the discipline it takes to really work a job 40 hours a week. What have you picked up from both of those environments, work ethics, to help your race program?
Time management is a lot of it. That and just like I think a lot of it too is you don't sweat the little things. Like I think like when I was just focusing on racing all the time, that was all that seemed to matter to me, and that was what you put your sole focus into. And I feel like work's grounded me a little bit, where like you have a bad day at the racetrack, you go to work and you forget about it and you move on. And that's more what I've learned a lot of over the off season is just like you got to control what you can control and let the rest work itself out. And hard work pays off. Like you know, I I was working hard before, but right now, like, I'm up for work and gone at 5:30 in the morning. And I'll be honest, I wasn't waking up at 5:30 in the morning when I was just racing. You were waking up at 7 and working out. And I thought that was hard. Now I go to work 40 hours a week, come home and work out for an hour, hour and a half in the evening. And it's definitely a lot more rewarding doing it that way. Like when you're getting up at 5 in the morning to go to work and you finish your day, you can sit back and like feel accomplished. And that's a good feeling.
It's also a mind break as well from racing.
It is like, it's fun too. Like we have a really good group of guys that, get into my racing and follow what I do. And it's fun to come home from a race weekend, especially after a successful one, and, get to talk to the, employees about it, and they get into the racing and follow what I do. So that part of it's pretty cool too. Like you get to come back and like enjoy the excitement of having a good weekend with those guys at work. And as well as, like you said, during the daytime, it kind of relaxes the brain a little bit. You're focused on other things. And I think that's good sometimes to kind of get a reset. And then when you do come home, like I used to get to a point where like coming home to go for a bike ride or, go for a bike ride in the evening or whatever was kind of a job, where now like it's kind of a joy. Like I find it more fun to like go out and exercise for me, because I want to, not because I necessarily have to. And that part of it's fun.
What have you modified in your training program, being that it's not a living job to race. It's now a job to help pay for racing.
Yeah. Like for me, I haven't changed much, honestly. Like I've tried to stay to what I've always known and what I've done, and it's more just changing the orderly fashion of how I do it and modifying, like, if I used to work out about every day of the week during the week, where now, if I have a 10, 12 hour day at work, some evenings I come home and you work in the shop and you skip a workout that day, where in the past, like, if I didn't work out, like I would, you would kind of like it meant a little more, where now, like, I just I just kind of like do what I can. I just manage. I do what I can with the time I have, and if I get to it, great. If I don't, I don't. I know that, like, I still put my effort into making a living and got done what I needed to do that day, and then I focus the next day on getting in my training, and um that's been good. Like, I think it's been it's been a change and an adjustment, and I'm still working out and figuring out what works best for me. Um, Especially like starting here, like at the start of the season, like I was coming home after like Daytona and Texas, where normally I would stay on the road for those first 2 months of the race season because I can't ride here. So, like, at the start of the year when I was coming home, that was a big adjustment for me. Like, you're coming home to cold weather, snow, rain, and, like, where usually I was in Florida riding for, the past 3 years, where now I'm home in the rain and the snow and, like, working out indoors in the evenings. And I think it all just comes down to, like, making racing fun is what I like has been my biggest, like, success or secret to my program this year. Is I've just enjoyed, like, when you come home and can't ride in between the race because it's snowing and raining, or you only get to ride once or twice, like, when you do get to the races and the racetrack, like, you're pumped to hit that racetrack for the first qualifier and ride your machine and go have fun. And where before, when you were riding 4 days a week, it was just another day. And I've actually, like, rather than necessarily, like, looking at it as like a disadvantage, I've used it as like an advantage, of like a motivator. Like, I come to the races knowing, like, yeah, the guys I'm racing ahead of me might have rode 3 or 4 more times than me between the last race, but, like, I know I went to work and busted my butt in the gym, and I'm coming there, like, with the attitude and the chip on my shoulder. Like, even though I might not have rode as much as you and got the testing in you did, like, I can still compete. And, like, that's been really fun to me to have that mentality and, like, have that push to still want to run with those guys.
Do you think that the uh, mental burden that you were carrying before? Hold on a second. That wasn't supposed to happen. Do you think the mental burden that you had before was part of the burnout because you were training all the time and so much of it was just all put on your shoulders and it was always going on between your ears?
Yeah, like, I feel like, especially last year, like, I was struggling, having machine issues and, like, comfort issues on the machine. And when you're doing that, like, I feel like when I was focused on it all the time, that's all I could think about 24/7 was, like, basically what's, like, it was like there was just a lot of negativity, and, like, that's on me. Like, you need to be, you need to work through that. And I kind of let it, like, pull me down, where now, you just kind of overlook it and try and stay on the positive side of, I'm still getting laps and still getting to ride. And I think, like, talking about going to work and having that mental break for a little while and having other things to worry about and to show up for has helped, like, kind of not overthinking the situation sometimes.
Yeah, I could see how overthinking it was. You know, in our conversations last year, I could tell how stressed you were. and there wasn't a solid answer for you. There wasn't somebody that I thought that you were. I mean, I know you relied on your dad a lot. I know you relied on a lot of people, but there was no relief for you.
Yeah, and a lot of my issues last year were myself. Like there wasn't anyone that was gonna fix it, fix my problems for me. Like at the end of the day, I'm the guy pushing the throttle, and like it's my program. Like I have Chad helping me, and now I'm building my engines. And like before, I had someone else doing it. And at the end of the day, still it's my program. Like it's on me to make sure my machine's ready, and like whatever setup I bring, like that's my call. And I think I let that pressure get to me before, where just with learning and growing and maturing, I'm realizing that sometimes you just gotta live with what you got and do the best with what you can. And yeah, just it's been a big year of like mental growth and confidence. And it's a lot of little things. Like there wasn't one big answer for me to like fix what I had going on last year. It was an accumulation of fixing all the little things, and those little things have added up to big things.
Sorry for the couple little distractions we just had here. Um, but we've been dealing with some stuff with my dad, and my brother and I have been spending more time taking care of certain appointments and things like that with him. So all the listeners, I apologize if it looked like I was distracted when this comes out on YouTube. Yes, I was, and I deeply apologize, but I did hear everything you said, Max. And I agree with how burdensome all of that is, and how much it can, just drag you down to where you almost don't want to ride.
Yeah. Yep. Um,
Mhm.
there was times last year where like it wasn't even the fact that I didn't want to ride. It was almost the fact that like I didn't want the disappointment, like of like going to the track and like having machine issues and like struggling with them, or like not like being confident in myself. Like there was just a lot of things that weighed down on you, and it kind of just took a good break and a good mental reset and getting the right people in the right places to like build that confidence back up. And now that we're there, it's pretty rewarding, and like it's pretty satisfying to look back and like from where we were a year ago to now. And pretty happy and like proud of that group of people and myself, like for overcoming that.
I agree, because once you're caught in that tornado, it's life changing. It can be so bad sometimes. I've seen careers end in that tornado, and they shouldn't have, because people could not get a hold of something or get grounded long enough to change the momentum. And I'm glad you did, because I think that you have a lot left in the tank yourself to go out and compete with these guys. You've made a huge turnaround this year, and the fans are watching. The people know, they can see it. Um, you haven't put yourself in the second or the first place spot yet on the podium, but I think it's coming.
I'm 100% behind that statement. I know it's coming. I can't tell you when, but I can tell you it's coming.
Right, right. Um, when you look to the future, the last time I asked you this question, you couldn't answer me. Do you see yourself racing for a number of more seasons?
I have no end in sight at this point. I can put it that way. Like at this point in time, like I like live, dream, eat, breathe motocross. Like it's just I really had a good like rejuvenation and resurgence like coming into this year, and found the love for it again. And like I really look forward to like actually having an off season where like I know I have a good program right now. I'm comfy. Give me some time to like fine tune some more things, and like I look forward to continuing to grow and push, because I feel like we're only going to go upward from here on out, and that's a good feeling.
That's awesome. So I want to change topics on you and get your opinion on a few things, if you don't mind.
Shoot. Let's see
Okay,
what you got.
let's talk Legends race. What's your opinion of this?
I honestly am surprised it hasn't happened sooner. I think it's a great idea.
How many of these guys are, I know Chad Wienen's your mentor, but how many of these guys are the guys that you saw growing up that you wanted to be like?
To be honest with you, about none of them. I am so young. I'm so young to where like I forget I was having this conversation with the other day, but it was so funny because they're like, oh, like all our idols are coming back, and I'm like, man, like these are all guys' names that like I look in a history book and I'm like, man, like I've heard the stories and all this about all these riders and like what they were good at and like what they did, and it's like going to be really good to actually like see them ride. And like I don't hold them to a high standard, like I know these guys are coming back 50, 60 years old, but like it's going to be even just nice to like put a name to a face for some of these guys. Like a lot of these guys I've never even met. So like for me, it's like going to be really cool. Like coming up through the racing, like you've heard of your Doug Gus, your Dustin Wimmers, and all these guys from back in the factory days when I was still in diapers just about. So like for me, it's going to be cool to like put a name to the face and like see all these guys that actually line up, because I've honestly never witnessed one in my lifetime other than watching YouTube videos.
That's a great unique perspective. I never even thought of it that way for you. I just assume that everybody's been in the industry a bazillion years like I have.
Yeah, no, like it's funny because we've had that conversation with a lot of people. Like I'm really close with Jeremiah Jones and Chad, obviously. And like I was sitting down with Jeremiah the other day, and like, I've only ever known Jeremiah since after racing. Like I never saw Jeremiah race or, Travis Spader or any of these guys. And like it'll be really cool to see your Shane Hitz and all these guys ride, because like I've honestly never seen them ride a four-wheeler before.
So, just a little tidbit about Jeremiah. Jeremiah was the mold breaker for the age of a champion in ATV racing. He was the first young guy to come in and snatch that title, where everybody else was older, more refined, been in the industry longer, where Jeremiah came in as a young man and did it and really shook things up, because you didn't see young people come in and do that. He
Okay.
just, yeah. So that's where, the stories about Jeremiah, or the mythology behind him, is, that he has something special. He is something special because his insights to racing, and the fact that he could do what none of the other young people could do. He
Hmm.
went and beat the legendary guys at their game when he was still wet behind the ears.
Yep.
And I didn't know Jeremiah. I didn't know him very much back when he was young. I've gotten to know him a little better as he's gotten older. Um, he was a cocky, strong, kid. Didn't care. He was going to the front. Didn't care.
Yeah.
None of that. None
Yeah.
of
It's
that mattered.
it's interesting because Jeremiah, like Chad's a big mentor to me on the like machine side of things, and like the program and like how to get where you need to go and have the best setup. And Jeremiah is the guy that's at my tent every race. He pits with me and he helps me out with track dissection and lines. And it's so funny. Like Chad's a very methodical, like smooth rider, and then I have Jeremiah with me, and like you could just tell, like he, you know, Jeremiah obviously doesn't ride anymore or anything, but like it's crazy when you have a conversation with him. He's just like, man, like why weren't you on the gas there? Like why'd you let him have that spot there? Like you got like the aggression, like he still carries that with him. Like when he's discussing and dissecting a track with you, like he's gonna tell you if you were a wimp. Like he's gonna tell you if you should have ran it in there, like been more aggressive. Like you could just tell, like he was the guy that like he was never gonna back down. And it's so funny, like when you talk to him before a race, because he still has that mentality. Like when you're discussing like what you need to do going into the next moto and how you need to attack sections, like he's very aggressive with his thought process and his like how he dissects the track. And he looks at it very differently than most guys do, and it's really like it's really cool that I get to have that knowledge and get to have those conversations with him. But it's just interesting, like he's got a very different perspective on like how he would attack a racetrack compared to most other riders, because it's not always like the smooth, methodical way. Sometimes it's like you just got to hang on to that thing and like hope you make it to the other side.
Which, if I were building a race team, he'd be my manager. He
Yeah.
would be the guy. And if he wasn't the manager, he would be the rider director, where he would be taking these guys aside and teaching them the things that they need to know. I just had a opportunity to sit with him at Briarcliff the year that I got to go there, and I was just listening to his take on the track layout and what lines to take, and I was blown away. I had to go back down and watch the track be ridden and see some of the things that he was talking about and just go, I would have never seen that line in a million years. I would have never done that.
No, like it's amazing. I go ride at his old compound across the street from his house. I go and stay with him personally quite a few times throughout every year. And JJ always comes out to the track with me and helps me with my riding when I'm out there. And like even just the drills and things that he has you do, like we'll go out there and like he's always trying to keep you on your toes and like open your eyes up. Like I got a good one for you that'll just make you laugh. Is we're out there and Jeremiah's things is cones. He loves cones and he likes to move them on you. So like we're out there one day and it's super hot, super dry, tracks like no traction, just roached, and there's blue groove everywhere. And he's out there tight giving me two sets of cones in the apex of a turn, and he's telling me to go through them and working on like really pushing into the turn and trying to get out of them. And like he literally went to the point to where like he made the cones too narrow for me to possibly fit through, to make me focus that hard to try and get the machine like down this side of the track, where like I'd have never ever went there in my life. Like I would have never saw that line. I'd have never moved that far outside, or like the angle he sent me on was just so like out of this world different than like what I was doing. And it was so funny because like when he removed the cones, I went back to taking that line and it was super fast, but like it just wasn't like the main race line. Like it was a very like unorthodox, like thought out line, and it was kind of crazy, but it worked really good. And you're just like, man, like he's not even on the track riding, and the dude just sees those kind of things. Like it's so awesome to like have that around and get to listen to him and like have him show you those kind of things, because like you can tell like I never got to watch Jeremiah ride. I've seen a lot of videos of him ride, and I can kind of understand who he was and like how he attacked the track just by how he teaches, because it's like very different than like anything most guys do today.
Right. I totally agree with that. I think it's inspirational and revolutionary at the same time. This guy could change an entire season directing the right person.
Yeah. Yep.
No, I mean, unbelievable. As we roll into the last few rounds, there's a couple things going on in two of the pro classes. Your class, the pro class, and then the WXC, I mean the WMX pro class. You have two riders that are rolling in on perfect seasons. To my knowledge, it's never been done in the ATV world. What are your thoughts of this for the record book?
I'm under that same knowledge of that it's never been done. And I think it's one of those things that like I'm sure wasn't necessarily a thought for those riders at the start of the year, and now it's getting to the point where it's definitely a possibility. And I think it's all in their hands. Like they just got to keep coming out and performing. And can it be done? For sure. Do I think it'll happen? I'm not sure yet. I'm waiting for, like, we haven't seen any weather yet this year, and I think that always plays a big spoiler. You get some mud motos and some rain, and it's anyone's game. But at the same time, when these two riders are riding at the level that they are, um, they're going to be hard to beat. And like we just saw in the dirt bike world, Jet Lawrence do it a year ago. No one was able to stop him, and right now, no one's been able to stop either of these two. And I want to say that someone's going to, but at the end of the day, that's why we go racing.
Right. Right on. Right on. Good answer. Good answer. So Kinsey has been riding 450A, and she's got herself in, podium finish in a moto or two. She hasn't put herself on the box yet in the overall, but she's competing with those boys, and a couple of those riders are riding in the pro sport class.
Oh yeah.
So how would you feel about Kinsey building herself into a professional?
I mean, I can see it coming. I can say that for sure. I think it's awesome. Like, I know them pretty well on a personal level, and like, they're super well-grounded people, and they work their butts off. Her dad does a ton for her, between owning Briarcliff and putting on the great events he does, and then what he does for her program. I know he's a big part of that, and hats off to him for that, and hats off to her. Like, I know she's, a high school student that, I think she just graduated this year. Like, to balance like school, and I know she was in some athletics, I'm not all sure there, but like to be an athlete, to be in school, and then to go out and like her moto win streaks like almost 40 motos at this point, but between the end of last year and this year. And it's like, to not have a mechanical for the mechanic is amazing, and then for her to go out and not have a bad moto or to continue salvaging 1-1 motos, like that's the more crazy part to me. Is like that's a lot of willpower and determination. And I think if you can do that, like, yeah, I can see her continuing to work forward. And like, I haven't got to see a lot of her rides in the A class with us racing, but the few that I have, like, you can tell for her that, like, I think the boys ride a little more aggressive, and I think that's been a learning curve for her. Like, more of the like racecraft side of it, like learning the block pass maneuvers, and like, basically learning your competition. Like, it's also another thing when you don't ride with the guys all the time, to like learn who does what and like who likes to go where. Like, that's part of like moving through the ranks, is you have to learn your competition too. And she's obviously got it down in the women's, and I think like, her running A class this year, like I saw the moto she took third, like she put herself in a good position with a good start, and like just kept her head down and focused forward. And I think if she can continue to do that, like she's going to continue to be there every weekend.
Yes, and I need to correct what I said. She's already a professional, but that would be transitioning into the professional men's category. Yeah, I'm super excited for her. I think that, she's still young. She's still 17, maybe early 18. She's got a long way to go, and she's worked out her college schedule for next year so that she can race.
Yeah, that's some determination, and I hope it works out for her. Like, I think that would be like, as awesome as it is, she's won the women's pro title already, and like she's going to continue to back it up, and she's been proven that she's the one to beat. And I'd assume for them, like at this point now, to go into the boys classes, and like I'm assuming a goal is to win an A class here, like that would be quite the accomplishment, and hats off to her if she can do it.
I agree, brother. Max, as always, brother, I want to thank you so much for coming on ATV Talk. It's always a pleasure. You're always welcome.
The team here at ATV Talk would love your feedback. Please email it.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to share us with your family and friends. The podcast is available on all streaming platforms, and you can find us on social media as ATV Talk Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter.